Okay, so Cobra pose is Bhujangasana. And the benefits are strong extension. So when we come up, strong extension creates spinal health. As long as the forces are distributed evenly. So creates spinal health and then provides powerful massage and opening of the endocrine system.
Can you say that part again?
Yeah, provides powerful massage and opening of the endocrine system. Can they please stop walking around up there? Oh my God. Woosah, woosah. Contraindication should be avoided in pregnancy, of course. You don't really want to put anybody on their belly. So, no locust pose, no crocodile, no upward dog, no, none of that for pregnancy. Now, they put on here high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke, which I feel like they put that on everything, and it's to cover their own butt. But, maybe with people, I had a lady who had a stroke, and she came to me, and she has a really good testimony because when she came to me, she didn't have a lot of range of motion. She had lost a lot of range of motion. She could barely balance in tree pose. And she had frozen shoulder, like a lot of issues. But she ended up, she fell in love with yoga. And she just was so committed to it. She ended up taking teacher training and becoming a yoga teacher and got all her range of motion and all that, you know what I mean? All that back. So amazing story. So I wouldn't say don't let someone who's had a stroke deter you from, teaching them or, not putting them in poses because, of course, we always want to stress, listen to your body. And if something doesn't feel right, back out. You can't stress that enough, right? If something doesn't feel right, back out of the pose, edge out of the pose, don't push yourself. As long as we're constantly feeding those reminders and cueing those, hey, don't let your ego run your practice, really listen to your body. I think you'll be on the safe side. And, again, this isn't raising the arms where I've said, be careful on things where we're raising the arms, doing this instead of this in a Warrior 1. But, in Cobra, you're not putting the arms up over the head. So anyways, okay. I digress. Those with low back pain should begin with modification. So, low back pain, you don't want to throw them into chaturangas. But actually that coming up on the inhale is actually going to strengthen the low back. So, if they have low back pain, I usually throw that pose in there because I'm like, if you have low back pain, probably because it's weak. So let's strengthen it. Strengthen overstretching, right? But there's other things like the child's pose with the knees together to create that shelf to support the lower back, turning the feet in on a wide leg forward fold to support the lower back. But I wouldn't, you could in a Cobra, you could tell them to engage their glutes because that can help push up a lot easier in it. And I feel like when you engage the glutes and you come up into Cobra, it also helps to protect that low back when you're engaging the glutes. Okay. So a modification might be Sphinx pose. So instead of doing Cobra, we might put them here. This is Sphinx. So doing that. So this is still a nice heart opener. It's also a back bend. And it's less intense as the Cobra. So you can do a Cobra pose without the back bend. And you're just focusing on lengthening of neck with the face looking down. So it kind of looks like wait, they said Cobra pose without the back bend. So it just looks like this. So the hands are still here, but we're thinking about the lengthening. And we're looking down and lifting the head, but we're not doing so much of the back bend. Does that make sense? So this could be a modification. So some of the adjustments you can, this one is gentle, pressing into the forehead. So when they're in Cobra, if their head's like hanging down, you might gently, have them lift the head. So you might put your hand here, but be real careful you don't yank or, push on their head or neck. This area is such a, be careful with this area. C shape with your hands, the chest, you might say lift and expand. Because if they're pressing up, but they're still kind of slouching, if they, open up through the chest. So lift and expand with the C shape here. And then another thing you can do is step on their feet. That just feels good. And then it's human contact.
I like our feet in general, whenever they're behind us, they should still be kind of straight, right?
Yeah.
Not like that.
Yeah, you want it like straight. And then you actually want to bring them together.
Oh, but I meant just like in general.
Oh, yeah.
Like always like that.
You're, yeah, you want to train it to be, but
Yeah.
Brian, he has like the cutest little feet. He always his always turn in, and like when he sits on them, they even like turn in. And, so of course, mindfully, you would want to train them, but, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's okay if it is like that. Like what I'm trying to say. Well, I guess I watched someone kind of like not really make fun of him, but they were kind of like hard on him about it. So you don't want to ever make anyone feel like their little quirks and stuff are like not accepted, I guess, So I would say you would want to train it, but don't beat yourself up or don't be hard on anybody if they do have like those little cute quirky things, A lot of, because that's where that kind of comes in, and here's the duality. On this side of the spectrum, do you lose your pen? Are you sitting on it? Oh, there it is, yeah. Here's the spectrum. Over here is like alignment, more Iyengar based, more what you see on Instagram. And then here's how does it feel in your body? You know what I mean? So just because something doesn't look symmetrical doesn't mean that they're not getting something out of the pose. Doesn't mean that the energy is not flowing. I would say if it's turned a little bit, that's okay. Of course, if we can train it to be straight where the energy can flow, because now I'm thinking, okay, maybe the energy could get cut off in the ankle if it's turned, but, it would almost have to really be turned or, for it to cut off the energy altogether. The most important thing for me, and everybody's going to be different, but the most important thing for me is the energy. I want to know that the energy is flowing freely and thoroughly through the body. That's going to be my priority over how it looks or how symmetrical the body is or the alignment of the pose. Safety, then energy. Safety, energy. But yeah, so your spectrums, okay, over here is alignment based, over here is how you feel. So maybe try to find, okay, where can we find a nice happy medium or balance between the best of both worlds, I guess? Does everybody feel good about Cobra pose? Okay. So we are going to cover upward facing dog. Okay. So the benefits are increases flexibility in spine, tones abdominal muscles, releases nervous energy down the spine, improves posture, increases lung capacity, increases energy. And so we've talked already about like inhaling, opening, exhaling, closing. We talked about that, right? Also, when we close, like forward folds or child's pose, or kind of like, these are more like, they're gonna be more relaxing to the system. Where heart openers and back bends are gonna be stimulating. So keep that in mind too when you're planning your classes. So if you're doing like a 7 o'clock at night class, you might not do a lot of those back bends because you're going to get all these back bends and spinal twist can be both ways, but they can be stimulating. So you might not want to do all that because then those people are going to be super energized and they're going to go home and not be able to go to sleep that night, you know? Whereas in the morning, you might not want to do a lot of forward folds because you're going to get people all relaxed and they, you know, if it's a morning class, they're going to go and they're going to be like, oh, I'm just so sleepy all day, you know? So that's something to keep in mind. Okay. So contraindications for upward facing dog, we should be avoided in pregnancy, of course, high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke, because they say that on everything. Those with low back pain should begin with modifications. So, you know, again, the modification of Sphinx pose or Cobra pose. And then again, the adjustments are similar. So one hand on the forehead. Again, be mindful, gentle. Other on the back of the head to straighten. So maybe even just, you know, both hands. One on the front and one on the back, but gentle, right? Be very gentle with the neck. Hand on heart to support and say, you know, expand. If they're needing to open up through the chest, you can do that C shape. So there is, Dylan, would you mind demoing here? So there's one thing you can do. So come into your upward facing dog. You might go around and see if the thighs are up off of and you can just use your feet. You just stick your feet under there. Okay, are their thighs up off of the earth? And then the other thing you can do is stick your knees in gently and press to open up through the shoulders. What?
I'm all slippy because I'm inside.
But yeah, I'm done with you. Thank you so much.
Wait, so where are your knees?
Yeah, okay, just kind of in the middle of your back. What I did was I kind of straddled behind you, and then I kind of bent my knees in, and then pressed. Yeah. Ideally, though, you kind of want to, if you can, do it in a way where your feet are planted. I came up on my toes, but when we're touching people, we really need to make sure we're grounded, so that was kind of my bad. We want to make sure that both feet are into your earth, or into the earth. So, because I could have lost my balance and fell into her or them, right? So, He's so silly.
Upward facing dog is one of my least favorite.
Really?
I love it. Then I go like you lift your thighs.
Whenever we do it, I always do Cobra. I think it's just because my low back.
Yeah.
I think upward dog is too much.
Yeah.
I feel like Cobra is too much. Because like, cause having the thighs on the ground, I feel like I'm compressing it more. But then when I can lift the thighs, like it's more of a slope instead of just being like.
See, I think I like it because of the reverse. I don't like the slope.
Isn't that funny? See how different?
And I saw in this book, I can't find that page again, but there's a part where it's talking about back bends and like, so I've always heard like, try to lengthen and then go back, like as if you're over a beach ball. But in here, they say like engage your lower abs and then do the back bend so that it protects your spine, keeps that length. And I was like, oh, it makes back bends like so much harder because low abs, but at the same time, it just feels better. So even in like Cobra and Up Dog, I noticed like, yeah, engaging the lower abs, it does help kind of like make sure the spine stays separated a little bit instead of just being like. Yeah.
That's another thing I forgot. We probably should do. Do you know where we left off at in the anatomy book? I don't think I wrote it down.
We've read 6 through 21.
Okay.
Oh, I remember that. 6 through 21.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure. We're in class that day. We left off on those fill in the blank pages.
Okay, I think we did. Yeah, you're right. So joints would be the next. So yeah, I'd say go ahead and do pages 22 to 34. Sorry. Thanks for reminding me about that book. What did I say, 22 to 34? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so does everybody feel good about upward facing dog? Okay, now here we go. Did we already do child's pose, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Pada1 and Pada2. P-A-D-A. Okay, Pada is foot. And this is one of the things I'm thankful for my teaching, but you'll find a lot of yoga teachers aren't as aware of this different formation, okay? So you have your poses, like your pyramid, your warrior one, this is Pada1. This is how we set up our feet. Remember, foundation is really super important, right? And then you have your Pada2 stance that sets you up for warrior 2, extended side angle, reverse warrior, triangle pose, So I want you guys to go ahead and stand up because I want you to feel this. So I'm going to show you the correct way. I shouldn't say correct. I'm going to show you our lineage way. So we're going to step the right foot forward and the left foot back. We're going to have both feet facing towards the top edge of the mat. The hips are facing towards the top edge of the mat. Right knee is bent. Arms come up. So this is Pada1, Warrior 1. Okay, you with me so far? Now, turn your foot at a 45-degree angle, left foot at a 45-degree angle. And it opens up the pelvis and hips a little bit more. And then turn forward. Do you feel how, to me, and I'm using I don't want to use negative words.
Feels tighter.
I feel like you yank. You have to like yank yourself
Yeah.
to turn to align towards the top edge of mat. So to me, I like the train tracks, the Pada1. Your hips are facing. Now it can,
I don't like that because I'm so unbalanced because again, I want that I feel steady, but
yeah,
turn my foot inward and like.
yeah. So, I mean, and you know, everybody's body's going to be different and you're going to feel differently. But to me, this then causes you to have to like turn, and I don't feel as aligned in my torso, in my hips, you know. Now this, I would say if it's a matter of balance, it would take a practice in practicing feeling. Because I would say I feel, well, because I'm used to this though, I feel stable and secure, you know. Now, Warrior 2, we do, Pada 2, we do the 45-degree angle. So the toes are pointed out towards the long edge of the mat. The pelvis is open towards the long edge of the mat. So this is Pada 2. Okay? So now you've opened up the hips for these certain poses that were more open towards the long edge of the mat. Now you'll notice more Western yoga, they'll say align the back foot parallel to the back edge of the mat. Now to me that really pulls on here. And everybody's going to be different. You might like that. You might feel like you're getting a little extra something more. Puts more pressure on your knee.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it's not as safe.
Balance this way.
Oh, really?
That's the way I was taught, though. So that's the way I'm used to.
Yeah, I've never been told to
Put your foot parallel to the back of the mat.
Yeah, it's always been 45. Yeah.
And to me, like for my body anyways, this muscle is already tight enough. Like I would rather make sure I'm supporting and I feel safe than to put myself at risk. But again, I want you to experience the differences so that you know. So a lot of times people don't know. They only know this or they only know this, you know. So at least now you know all of them and you can kind of feel what works for your practice. How do you want to teach? What do you want to offer? What do you like and not like? Do you want to give your students the option? You may even say, hey, you could do this or do this. Or you may even say, what feels good in your body? Let's let you do what feels good in your body. So you can do this or do that.
But when I bend over, I have to turn my foot back to 45 degrees. I can't do it parallel. I feel like way off balance.
Yeah. Or almost dangerous. Like you're putting your body in a susceptible or vulnerable position.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys have any questions about that? Yeah, play with it. Feel free to play with it. Like try going into a triangle pose the two different ways and see how it feels in your body. You know, try your extended side angle. Try your Warrior 2, you know, your reverse warrior, and, you know, feel it out. See which ones that feel good and don't feel good. You know what I mean?
I feel like when it's straight for my body, I feel like, especially when I go down, like you said, I feel like when it's straight with the back of that, I feel like it like blocks off
Some of your energy.
flows nicely. It's like stiff and it just doesn't bend as good as it bends this way when it's 45.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
I feel like I just need to know the point, you know, because like if the point is keep your hips square, you know, I want my foot straight, you know.
Yep. For Warrior 1 or Pada 1.
But then when you usually go down like that most of the time after that.
So when we're talking Pada 1 and the hips are facing towards the top edge of the mat, the only poses that are in our sequence are going to be your Warrior 1 or your high lunge where the heel is off the ground, or your pyramid. Okay, so those are Pada 1 poses: pyramid, Warrior 1, and high lunge.
Because I thought Warrior 1 even then was still with the back foot at 45.
Some people teach it that way, but I don't.
I just realized that in my head just now.
Yeah, because I always did it at 45.
You've been doing 45 too on the Warrior 1?
Yeah, like just my hips forward.
Yeah.
Between,
When you said that, I was like, oh.
yeah. So this is high lunge.
Yep. High lunge.
That was Warrior 1. Just
Yep.
Heel down.
Yep.
Oh. Yeah, I've always been like, yeah, we're in high lunge, and now we're in Warrior 1. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I was getting confused about triangle pyramid. So it's triangle with your foot forward, and then it's.
So, okay. Warrior 1, pyramid. Pada1, pyramid. Okay. This is when we just come straight down over the leg.
And then triangle.
Triangle is Pada2. So 45-degree angle. Pada2. Triangle. Yeah. And they're on your sequence, like, so they're actually, you got all your Pada2. So you got your Warrior 2, your extended side angle, your triangle, and then it breaks it in half with this wide leg forward fold. And then you have your Warrior 1 and your pyramid. Those are both Pada1. Which that girl, that's a horrible picture because the pyramid's a good picture. It shows her feet facing. But the Warrior 1 picture, if you notice that girl, she even looks like she's got her foot parallel to the mat for Warrior 1. Not even a 45-degree angle there. So I mean, like, I'm not a fan of that picture, but.
Extended side angle, is that foot parallel then? 'Cause that's what the picture looks like.
Extended side angle.
Yeah, it looks like her foot is parallel.
Yep.
I feel like
Is it supposed to?
I think I do it. Parallel.
So I'll say this. I put this together just taking pictures off the internet, okay? My teacher, who's done yoga for over 20 years, who's taught for over 20 years, she's done yoga longer than that, but she is the one who passed down the Krishnamacharya lineage to me, and this is how she taught it, was this is Pada 1, and this is Pada 2, and know the difference. And she told me, know the difference, you know? And she did say, be very mindful because Western yoga is a lot different than what I'm teaching you, you know? We'll run into a lot of differences. Do we want to argue and fight about it? No, not really. Do we want to say our way is the right way? Now we sound like a bunch of Christians, you know? But we can like what we like.
So is Warrior 2 just simply like twisting this way?
So no. So, okay, so again, Pada 1. Pada 1 is this, and you're going to do Warrior 1 and pyramid like this. Pada 2 is this. That's where you're going to do your Warrior 2, where you're going to do your extended side angle. You can do reverse warrior. You can do your triangle. You can do your half moon.
And those, I have that on here, right?
Yeah. So these are Pada 2, these three.
Said triangle.
And then these are Pada 1. Yeah, and if you want to do that, like put a little 2 by the 3 top pictures, and then put a little 1 by the, you know, if that helps you. Pada. So it's Sanskrit for foot. It's pretty much just the placement of the foot. Yep.
And then like wide leg forward will be kind of like a reset. Start over.
Yeah, kind of like an in-between. So you can do it like this, but if people have low back pain, you can tell them to turn the feet inward because it kind of helps that, support that as you come down. Again, another reason why I like the 45-degree angle for the Pada 2, I feel like it's more support here because that, when you, let's say you go into different, I don't know, just I would be very mindful of hips and be very mindful of knees. So a lot of times you might see, I noticed you're a little hyper flexible back there. The knee will sometimes lock back in. You might need like a slight micro bend. And that's something to look in on your students. Watch for that, because you'll see a lot of that. Like hyper flexible people will lock in that back knee. So they just need a little micro bend. How do you guys feel so far about just the foundation? We haven't even covered the poses yet. But does that make sense? At least now you know. And, you know, I'm not here to say, oh, this way is the right way. I'm just here like, this is the lineage, and you can compare. And it's better to know all the things, because then as a teacher, when you face a student, or you're dealing with a student and their body is just having a really hard with one way, now you have a different option that you might give them, right? Who goes there? Oh, bye, Amelia. Their meditation class must be over. Okay. Let's see. So Warrior 1. Okay, so I don't have these in order. So let's go to, if you guys don't mind, skipping around a little bit. We're going to skip down to Warrior 1. The benefits are, it develops flexibility in hips and shoulders as we enhance stability. Develops flexibility in hips and shoulders as we enhance stability. Yeah, develops flexibility in hips and shoulders as we enhance stability. Warrior 1 also tones abdominal organs, stretches the calves, and I love this one, teaches us to face life with open heart, directly and honestly. Teaches us to face life with an open heart, directly and honestly.
Stay in that pose all day.
Yeah, I need it. Well, this crazy world just, it always wants to give you reasons to shut off your heart, right? And you just got to keep, it's like as soon as you heal something, then another something happens, right? That's how it works. Contraindications, those with knee, hip, or low back pain. So again, watch that knee, make sure you're using the bone stacking method. Again, if they have hip issues, even more the reason we want to keep a closed hip joint. High blood pressure, heart disease, or history of stroke. Should begin with modifications. So again, you know, there you might bring the hands to heart center or down to the sides or something, you know, instead of taking the arms up. If the, you know, how we did the bone stacking, if they're having some serious issues with the knee, you don't have, it doesn't have to be bent as much. So instead of looking like, you know, here's bone stacking. Sorry, let me get my Warrior 1 stance. It might look like that, and that's okay. Hands on hips or heart center, which we talked about that. They can use the wall. And so we did this low lunge and high lunge adjustments where we lifted the sides. This would be one of those where you'd go through and lift at the sides and then soften and create space in the shoulders. Check alignment of hips. So here, if they have the railroad track feet, then the hips facing the top edge of the mat, they should be square. You know what I mean? So you can check the alignment of the hips and then check the pelvic tilt. So here you might see some funky things. You might see, let's just be silly here for a minute. A posterior tilt. Does that look weird? It feels weird. Or you might see an anterior tilt, where they're really sticking out. So you kind of want to make sure it's like that slight anterior tilt, like a rooted downward. You can C-shape the ribs, tighten and pull in. So not only are we lengthening, but you might have them like draw the ribs inward. So you could just use that C and say, pull in here. So it's almost like you're really activating the abs when you're drawing the ribs in. So it's a nice way to say activate your abs, or, because it really uses those muscles. Does everybody feel good about Warrior 1?
What did you say the contradictions were again?
Yeah. Those with the knee pain. So if they have knee pain, make sure they're either bone stacking or they can have a slighter bend. Like it doesn't have to be as deep or right above the ankle. We just don't want it overextending, of course. And then if they have hip or low back pain, you might have them use the wall. If they're having a lot of low back pain, you could have a shorter stance. So it's not as much of a back bend. Because you do kind of really open up in that. And then if they have high blood pressure, heart disease, or history of stroke, you can have them bring the hands to heart center or the hands on the hips instead of this. Warrior 1, good? Okay. So pyramid pose or head to knee pose is also another name used for it a lot. The benefits are it strongly massages the strongly massages abdominal and reproductive organs. Strongly massages abdominal and reproductive organs. It's good for menopause. The mild inversion invigorates the heart, thyroid, and brain. Yeah, the mild inversion that it is invigorates the heart, thyroid, and brain. It teaches trust and surrender. And, this is one of the things that I haven't done in a really long time, but I used to do this all the time. But you'd get them in, the straighten of the knee first, right? So you go Warrior 1, and then to prepare for pyramid, you would have them straighten the knee. And I would always bring, so whatever leg's extended, that hand behind the back, and then you kind of just fold halfway. And then you come up on the inhale. And exhale, fold halfway. So you're kind of like letting them know you're coming in. And then you might inhale both arms and then exhale, reaching out. Yeah, it's just a lovely way to like kind of introduce it to beginners because you're bringing that dynamic movement in, doing it with the breath. And then it's a little bit of that neuromuscular re-education. So you're letting the body know you're coming in and what you're about to do so that you don't just throw your body and then your hamstring goes, what? WTF? So it's gentle, for those older ladies or those beginners, I had to bring that into a class here. A contraindication would be pregnancy because you're folding over. Anything where you're not leaving room for the belly, it's like, you definitely have to make a modification for. High blood pressure, stroke, and glaucoma. So maybe they're worried about being able to see when you come down, like you don't want anybody, because it is like, if you think about it, it is kind of vulnerable as you go down. You really have to engage muscles. You have to have some sort of strength because you only have one leg there out in front of you and one leg behind you. And so like, you could easily topple over if you weren't in decent shape or mindful or, you know. So that's the only thing I can think of. I don't know. I think it's safe and gentle for the blood pressure and the stroke. I think, yeah, but. So a modification using blocks. Micro bend in the knee. So how we extend that knee, if they're locking in at the knee because they're hyper flexible, they might need to micro bend that knee. Bringing in blocks is really good. I will tell you, men have extremely tight hamstrings. It's ridiculous. So men are probably going to always need blocks in that pose. And it's better to set it up. Like, okay, so we're going to go into Warrior 1. Okay, we're in Warrior 1. We're doing our thing. Now go ahead and take those blocks and put them on both sides of that foot. You know, it's better to get it set up and tell them what to do. Okay, straighten through the leg. And you can even do this if you want, you know, whatever. And then have them come down and be here. Because sometimes people, one, they don't know what to expect and they don't know what you're about to do. So they don't know to set up the blocks. Two, a lot of times yoga teachers will put you in the pose and then think of the blocks. But they're already going like, WTF, this is crazy. And they're shaking and, you know, struggling. And, you know, it's just, this is a nice way to just set it up, get it, I want to say set the mood, but like you're not setting the mood. You're just like setting up for the pose. And especially if you know you got a guy in your class, like it's better to just, because, and then that's the other thing, okay? Now they're there. Now you want to bring in a prop or an aid to help them. They're a man. They got ego. What? You know, like they don't need no help, you know, so they're over there. They're just shaking. They'll just keep shaking before they ask for help, you know, or give in to, you know, well, and I shouldn't put all men in the same box because there's some really amazing ones that are just like, oh, cool. All right. You know, like, you know, but then there's some that aren't. So, you know.
When you say the microbending for like the hyperflexible, is that like sort of like when your knee, it gets so straight and you said it like locks?
Yeah.
So then when you go out to bend, it's sort of like kind of like that.
So I can't even do it anymore. I used to lock knees so bad. I always stood. It was like, I can't even do it anymore because it's uncomfortable because I've trained myself so much that it doesn't. But I remember it used to lock all the time. So now, like, go ahead and stand up. Let's look at your.
Yeah, I didn't know like locking your leg was like, stand like that. I was like, what?
Now turn sideways so we can actually see what it looks like.
Oh, is it when I go like that?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel it. Oh no, I do that a lot.
Yeah, that's always like existed.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you just became aware of it. Like, wow, you know?
Because when you do that, you don't have to use like any muscles though. And all of a sudden you have to like use your legs to stand.
Yeah. Now, when you bring awareness to that and you constantly bring microbends, you're going to end up sculpting your thighs. You're going to have definition, and because you're going to use muscles you haven't been using. But like even Taylor, if you were to like go into a Warrior 2, this knee locks in. And that one is the one you're probably going to have to train the most. Because that's the one we forget about the most. Because we get into Warrior 2 and we think about setting up this knee. We don't think about this knee as much, you know?
And seeing your elbows, your arms too, right with your elbow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because if you lock them when you're in plank, you don't have to use your arms.
But when you're hyper flexible, it's so easy to just get comfortable in doing that and it becoming like a habit, you know? Okay, so we use blocks, micro bend in the knees. Shorter stance would be a modification for pyramid pose, you know, like if they're really struggling or they're in pain, you might have them, you know. So I'll just show. So, you know, here's pyramid like this, but if they're really struggling, maybe have them step that foot in, you know, so now it's a shorter stance. The feet are closer together. Arm variations. So, you know, of course, beginners are going to have the hands on the blocks. You know, other people might be here. You might even have people be here. You might even have people be here. You know, you could even have people be here, you know, so you can play with the arms. An adjustment, you can do the hand down the spine. So you could either start in the middle of the back. I've done that, like start in the middle of the back and kind of like a myofascial, you kind of like pulling apart. So one hand's going towards the sacrum, one hand's coming down towards the neck, and then massage the neck. Because remember, the neck, I'm out of breath, releases the hamstrings. And this is a pose where the hamstrings, where you're really noticing how tight your hamstrings are. So if you can massage the back of the neck and get them to relax a little bit, you know, it'll get that release in the hamstrings and they might have some relief.
Do people get bothered when you start massaging?
So that's the thing too. You gotta know your people. And there's some days, like today, this morning, I taught Marissa's 10 a.m. class and I decided to do adjustments. And I was just in the mood to do more body work. And then there's days where I'm like, I don't really want to touch people. But so you got to know your people. You got to be in the mood for it, or the vibration. You can use the stickers, you know, or those little coaster things that people can put out, whether they want to be touched or not. And then you also want to get in the habit, even if you know a person, like there might be a lady who's like, yeah, sure, you know, down with it every day. But then all of a sudden there's one day where she's not having a good day and you go to adjust her and she just is having a bad day, you know? So we still want to get in the habit, even if we know someone, we don't want to always assume and just be like, are you okay if I physically adjust you? And that's what I did today. I was like, hey, you guys, you know, just give me a little thumbs up. And so they would give me a thumbs up. And I'd be like, okay.
I feel like I'd be okay with adjustments, but the massage
Yeah.
would be different.
Yeah.
I feel like that's different.
It could trigger.
Yeah. I don't think I would like it.
Some people look at massage as only being like intimate, you know, like, so yeah. And if you're not comfortable, then don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're comfortable doing it and want to know if your people are comfortable, you could be like, hey, there's a little trick that releases the hamstrings and it involves massaging the back of your neck. Are you comfortable with me coming around and giving you guys a little adjustment and massaging that? You might get people that are like, yes, please, you know? But then you might get people that are like, you know? So everybody's so different. And then on top of everybody being so different, everybody's different on different days. So it's like,
I'm not big on massages anyway.
yeah. Yeah, some people, you either love or hate them, I feel like. There's people that are like, don't touch me. And then there's people like, oh, yeah, you know. Yep, so that's the adjustment. Everybody feel pretty good about pyramid pose?
So, what were they just thinking about? Yeah, because it was just cat and the dog people. Like,
Cat dog people? Right, like some people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, yeah.
What are people who love both cats and dogs? What were you saying? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, the adjustments. So that, yeah, there's that.
So hand down the spine and then massage the neck.
Okay, just that one.
Yeah. You could adjust the hips, like square the hips, you know. But again, feel it out. I don't do a lot in that one just because I feel like one, people are just either really focused on the hamstrings because that you can feel the hamstrings in that. You guys are women. So men are gonna even like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they just really, anyway. Okay. When you're in that pose and then you've got someone like messing with your hips, I don't think for me, and see here again, like do what you know you like because I'm that way anyways, or I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say that, but that's kind of what I do. I do what I know what I would be comfortable with, which I feel like I have a pretty large bandwidth with what I'm comfortable with. But
I feel like if you mess with someone's hips when they're bending over like that, they could lose their balance.
right, not only balance, but vulnerable. I guess that was a little, and for me, I have a pretty large bandwidth with what I'm okay with, you know. I'm like straddle the people, do all the things, you know. But then when it gets to like this area, I get a little nervous just because that's a very vulnerable area on people, you know. If I'm putting my hands on your, you know, hips and pelvis, it's like people will tense up because that's a vulnerable area, you know. I don't know. So, yeah. Okay, so then we'll move into Warrior 2. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. Okay. So we got those two, those Pada1. Now we're going to hop up to the top of your page to the Pada2 stances. And we got Warrior 2, strengthens and aligns the shoulders, legs, strengthens and aligns shoulders, legs, pelvis, and hips. Longer holding, like to keep these people in this pose for long periods of time, longer holding, develops witness consciousness, which we talked about that. That's kind of like that deeper consciousness, like kind of bringing them into higher states of awareness, right? And the ability to stay calm under pressure. So the more we stay in Warrior 2, the more we practice the ability to stay calm under pressure. Contraindications. Here again, we have people with knee or hip pain. So if they have knee or hip pain, you might have them take a shorter stance. You know, if they've got the hip pain, you definitely want them to have more of a 45-degree angle instead of a parallel foot, you know. A modification can be, hands can be on hips or at heart center if they're really struggling with keeping the arms up. You can use the wall. And I already said you can have a shorter stance, right? So one adjustment, a lot of times we'll see, you do it like this so you guys can see. Because everybody's like in a hurry to get somewhere. We're always on the go. You'll see people, it'll physically be showing up in their body. So you kind of want to like move their body.
Hold my back.
Yeah. So you want their body to be, you know, aligned this way, right? And then another one, is this. So you'd want to like soften the shoulders down. So it says soften, create space in shoulders. C-shape the lower ribs, tighten and pull in. So, so here again, we're tightening and pulling in, or we're lifting here. Okay. Checking the knee alignment. So when I first started, my Warrior 2 was like this. And it took me a while to get it. And now it goes there and I don't have to think about it, But it took me mindfully every time I got into my Warrior 2 to align that knee with the middle toe. And that's how I tell people, align that knee with the middle toe. Because sometimes you'll see a lot of those knees inward. Okay. Making sure the knee is stacked on top of the ankle. And so if someone were like this, at first I would want to go align the knee with the middle toe. And maybe they're not getting it. So instead of pushing on their knee, I might grab this thigh and just slightly press it and be like, I want to see that knee aligned with that middle toe. And then if they're like this or like this, I might say, stack your knee on top of your ankle. And if they're still not getting it, I might, if it's like this, I might do this. If it's like this, I might, do like this. Does that help you guys? So again, when we're checking the knee alignment, see, we're always so focused on this knee. Make sure you check that back knee. And if it's hyperextended or locked, tell them to micro bend. And again, let's say their arms are like this, Yeah. So, and you want to straighten it to be like this. Again, remember to use the bicep and not the joints. So use the bicep to move the arms around. Does everybody feel good about Warrior 2? Hi, kitty kitty. So yeah, my sheet is not in order. So we're going to skip to triangle and then go back to extended side angle. So triangle pose, which is the third one on that list there in the pictures. The benefits are aligns legs, hips. Yeah. She's goofy. Aligns hips, legs, and arms. Tractions the spine and creates gentle rotation from a lengthened position. I'll say that again. Tractions spine and creates gentle rotation from a lengthened position. This pose works with all muscles of respiration to create fuller breathing. Works with all muscles of respiration to create fuller breathing. Balances entire being physically and energetically. So the contraindications for this pose are those with sacroiliac, low back, or hip pain should begin with modifications. Sacroiliac, so like your SI joint, okay. This one back here. Okay. If they're complaining they've got pain here, if they're complaining they got hip pain, low back pain, so you would definitely want to use a block for them. And I would say if they really do have a lot of SI issues, you might want to start with pigeon or reclined pigeon. Like try to start taking care of the SI joint issue maybe before throwing them into a triangle pose. But to me, it feels great on the SI joint. But that's just to me. And I don't have a whole, I have more hip issues than I have SI. And again, you got to ask people too, because they'll say that it's their hip, but they're actually talking about their SI joint. Oh, is this yours?
Yeah.
She's going to try to take off with your socks. You want to see the skeleton? It's this joint right here. You have a joint. And I know it's like, for me, I had to see this. I had to have the visual because I'm like, a joint? I didn't know we had joints in our ass. Yeah. I love having it massaged. And it's hard to find a massage therapist that will massage your ass. But it feels great. And we hold a lot of tension there because, again, this is fight, flight, freeze muscles. So immediately your SI joint is going to be affected if any kind of conflict, tension, fear, stress, So this is actually a joint here. So this is your sacrum and this is your ilium. So that's why they call it your sacroiliac. It's the two are, together. It's an actual joint where those two separate parts are joined together. Does that make sense? And they can move. It can move. This one doesn't really move. Yeah. I mean, you can probably feel like where your sacrum is.
Is it not the same thing as sciatic nerve?
Well, your sciatic nerve kind of runs through here.
Oh, okay.
So it can be affected in this, it can feel like the same thing because it's like the same area.
Yeah.
But your sciatica nerve can run all the way down the leg. That's why if someone has like tingling down their leg, that's going to be their sciatica nerve, not their SI joint. That way you can kind of tell the difference between the symptoms. Like if they're saying, oh, I got tingling all the way down my leg or numbness or buzzing or, then that's nerve.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, pigeon is a really good pose for that. But pigeon's a good pose for the SI joint too. Does that help?
Yeah, so it's like right at the bottom there.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't really want to do this on video, but like, you can kind of feel,
Do they crack that at the chiropractor? Or no? I don't think so.
I don't think you can crack this, but you can definitely get your pelvis adjusted.
Okay, yeah.
And you would be surprised at how often the pelvis becomes out of alignment because your tendons or your ligaments or your muscles or your fascia is pulling, especially people who do a lot of work just using one side of their body. Then your stuff's going to be out of alignment real easily.
I really want to go to the chiropractor. When we're in Shavasana, and I noticed it a lot today, I always think it's like my head's weird in the back, but it just feels like I'm always like to one side.
Yeah.
Like I'll have to like pull my shoulders down and like try to like flatten.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's a weird feeling.
I do that too. I have to adjust my shoulders, tuck my shoulder blades under. And it's really easy to, but the fact that you're becoming more aware of where your body is in space shows that the yoga